New government jobs are only created when there's money in the budget, and we just received new guidance on the budget from OMB. They specifically told agencies to prepare for a 3% pay raise for 2026 budget planning. We already know that January 2025, that's coming with a 2% pay raise. That's something that the president pushed out to Congress. Congress agreed with it. Still, a lot of people, they were disappointed with it, especially when the White House simultaneously requested a 4.5% pay raise for military service members. There was this general understanding that whatever federal employees would get for their pay raise, the military service members would get the same thing. It would be lockstep. Well, that's clearly not happening next year. Now, I don't know how OMB gets this number because we don't even know who the president's going to be. We won't find that information out until November. And this request for the pay raise of 2026, that will get pushed through in February. So will it be Harris? Will it be Trump? Nobody knows. But you would think the number will be different depending on who actually gets elected. Now, regardless of that, I think the days of 4%, 4+%, those days are behind us. We're probably going back to the norm of 1 to 2%, which will not be enough to keep up with the rate of inflation. So the buying power of all federal employees, that will be eroded by the annual inflation. This is what we saw from 2010 to 2021, and it didn't really matter who was president at that time. Ironically, some of the lowest pay raises the federal workforce had was during President Obama's administration, and this is when he had a Democratic Congress. If we zoom out even more and look at the last 53 years, we can see some interesting numbers. The average pay raise has been 3.59% a year. Average pay raises under Republicans has been 4%, and average pay raise under Democrats has been 3.4%. The lowest pay raise was 0% for 2 years under President Reagan, who was Republican, and 0% for 3 years under President Obama, who was a Democrat. One of the reasons that pay raises have been higher under Republicans is simply because Republicans have held office longer during this 53-year period. And this depends on other factors as well, like Congress. Is it being occupied by Democrats, Republicans? What's the state of the economy? All those variables go into play. The recently released OMB document is called A11, and it's over 1,000 pages long. A few more topics it touches, one of them being the budget timelines. Federal agencies need to submit their initial budgets on September 9th, and the baselines are locked in December 4th. We're getting close to the end of the fiscal year, so a lot of people are thinking about CRs, continuing resolutions. If a continuing resolution is used to fund the government, this timeline can be pushed out to the right. Now, when it comes to funding federal agencies, not all agencies are funded equally. Some receive a whole lot money than others. If you want to look at the top 3 funded agencies, let's go ahead and look through the list. Number 1 is the Department of Treasury with $4 trillion in their budget. If you've been following federal government jobs for more than a few weeks, you would know the IRS is on a hiring spree. They've hired a lot last year, this year, and they'll continue to do it next year. And if you jump on usajobs.gov, there are currently over 750 open jobs in this agency. And almost every week there are IRS hiring events. And if you haven't been receiving the links to these events, it's because you're not signed up to the newsletter. Every week, I push out hiring event links that you can attend anywhere. They're virtual hiring events. If you want me to email that to you, sign up to the free newsletter down below. Number 2 is Health and Human Services with $3 trillion in their budget. This is another federal agency that is growing. They're looking to add social workers. They're looking to add more medical professionals. Their OGC, which is their Office of General Counsel, they have held 3 events, hiring events this year. If you look on usajobs.gov, there are over 1,500 open jobs you can apply to. Over 500 of these jobs are in the 0600 series. This is the medical profession series, but you can also find jobs in finance, IT, and administrative jobs as well. Number 3 is the Department of Defense with $2 trillion in their budget. This is probably one of the safest agencies you can be a part of because they don't do very many layoffs or reduction in forces at all. But your experience is going to change depending on what military base you work at. Depending if you work at the Pentagon, there's people I know in the Pentagon, you cannot even take your cell phone into the office because of all the classified material. And speaking about classified material, this agency, more often than not, you're probably going to need a security clearance. On usajobs.gov, there are close to 5,000 open jobs. DoD is also one of the top agencies that provide cash incentives, reimbursement for travel if you need to relocate. But I often tell people that want to work there, especially for veterans, do you want to have a military culture? Because a lot of these offices, you're going to see people in uniform with the ranks. You're going to see the customs and courtesies calling people sir, yes, colonel, no, colonel. And if you don't like to be around that type of military culture, this is not the agency for you to be in. We can also see OMB requiring each agency to track and provide property expenses. The entire federal government is looking to get rid of millions of square footage in office space over the next few years. This was in the telework report to Congress, and it indicated that telework employees are only working from their office 60% of the time. Different federal agencies have different ideas when it comes to reducing office space. The agency reducing the most space is the Department of Energy, followed by the USDA. This further signals where the workforce is headed in the future. People like telework, people want remote work. It's like a tug of war. You have the talent here, you have telework and remote work here. And they're pulling back and forth, back and forth. Who's going to win? If you want to capture the best talent, you're going to have to be able to provide those type of benefits working from home. If you're still sitting there wondering, should I be applying to federal government jobs? Should I wait until the presidential election? Maybe next year is a better time to apply. The only thing you need to be focusing on right now, what's your location? What is your job series? Salary expectations? Put the filters in usajobs.gov and start applying daily. Start doing the action that you control and not worrying about everything else. The only way to get a better job is if you actually apply. You don't want to have analysis paralysis and be caught up in the news cycle and worrying about every other thing that you do not control. Look at your resume. Does it line up with the job series? If not, go to OPM Job Series Handbook and look for the job series that matches up with your experience. Pull those words out. Make sure they're formed around your experience in an organic fashion. Get the resume to a stronger level. Let's make that thing competitive so when you're applying, you're getting referred over 50% of the time. And not just that, you're actually getting callbacks for interviews. They're emailing you, inviting you to interview. Because if you're not getting those two things, those are your two main indicators that your resume is good. Right? There's so many people wondering, like, what's wrong? I never get any interviews. Well, it's your resume. I don't get any well, it's your resume. And people have this bias on their resume. They look at their resume, like, it can't be my resume. I paid $1,000 to have my resume done. It can't be my resume. No, it probably still is your resume. All right, so if you're new to federal government jobs, you probably have a lot of questions on your mind about the federal hiring process, usajobs.gov, what is a Schedule A letter, and a bunch of questions like that. I did a live stream. I answered over a dozen questions. A lot of these questions could be on your mind. If you're interested in that, I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.